You join me today on Wednesday, the 27th of August. What a couple of weeks it's been in the world of international trade, and specifically when referenced with regard to US and EU trade relations. Business will have looked at the last couple of weeks as providing some element of certainty, perhaps clarity in terms of the future EU-US trading relationship. But it's fair to say there's ground and more ground to be covered over the coming weeks as we understand the industry and product-specific carve-outs relating to the EU and US trade relationships. Joining me today are Thais and Ally, who are going to bring me through the current state of play, how it affects business, what we can look out for in terms of timings over the next couple of weeks, and Ally will bring us through some of the more recent government supports announced by the Irish government to support businesses deal with this, what is a very challenging time. Thais, welcome back to Dublin. Ally, great to have you here. Thais, let me start with you. It's been a busy 2 weeks. Bring us through the nature of the deal that the EU and the US have negotiated.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Yes, it continues to be a very dynamic and very exciting time to be in the US, and now with the EU joint statement that has been published. What we know so far is that new tariffs are coming to play. But there are some carve-outs that both countries have accepted, right, to treat differently, especially in the pharma industry and also in the semiconductors. Some also guardrails that were established for some generic products and other types of products. All to say that all that we know at this point is we have a joint statement. More guidance, we will need to wait for the executive order to be published. So there are some open questions that we have, but we will need to wait for the executive orders that we expect to have coming up in the next coming weeks to see how the implementation will be taking place.
So we have a 15% rate. We're looking at a position where, while we have carve-outs at an industry level, the detail is still outstanding. Any sense of when business can expect the executive order or further guidance from the US administration?
So based on our experience, whenever we have some initial guidance or fact sheets provided by the White House, executive orders should follow shortly. So our expectation is that if not this week, next coming week, so the next coming weeks, that would be the expectation that business would have additional guidance on how that implementation would actually work, what types of products would be included, the details of the implementation we will expect to have in the next coming days.
Ally, you and I talk quite regularly on tariffs. Irish business, bring us through what are Irish businesses concerned about? What are they thinking about when it comes to what is, a fairly big and dramatic issue that's been facing them the last 6 months, but it's going to face them indefinitely into the future?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, John. Like, this is a really dynamic environment and it's a very challenging one for Irish businesses and for Irish exporters. What I think most are doing is starting to look at their supply chains, really review them, both from like a customs valuation point of view, but also starting to think, where might there be agility in the supply chain? Is there any opportunity potentially to restructure or look at other methods of valuation, for example, looking at for sale, for export, for example, right? There's lots of opportunities that groups are really looking to try and explore. What I would say, though, that is really coming through is that they are exploring those options with a multidisciplinary lens. So it's really bringing corporate tax, TP and trade into a single room to try and think through all of those opportunities. Because what we're seeing is there's an inherent tension, I suppose, between a valuation from a TP point of view and a customs valuation. So having all of those disciplines together to try and knit through these issues has been really, really important. And I think that's probably the key takeaway.
Bringing it from a US lens, obviously this is global in nature. Certainly as we work through and help and support companies with this, we're seeing different levels of readiness in different sectors. What's your experience on the ground in terms of how companies are experiencing, preparing and dealing with this challenge?
So we've been now dealing with this for 8 months, right? So this uncertainty that we have since the new administration took office is creating some different levels, to your point. We have companies that are in different levels of implementation. First and foremost is understanding what is the tariff impact to my business, right? So this is number one. And looking at what are the potential mitigation strategies that one can implement. What Ali mentioned, this various disciplines within a company. That is how we are dealing with our US clients as well, basically bringing everyone to the table because there are different perspectives. Ultimately, a tariff mitigation strategy to be efficient, we know that it's not just trade or tariff driven, needs to be business operationally possible, right? So that's why supply chain coming to the conversation, legal coming to the conversation, finance coming to the conversation with tax and customs dealing with this topic is super relevant. So what we have so far is we have clients that have been in this journey for a couple of months. They're already implementing tariff mitigation strategies, creating flexibility, creating alternatives, right? Because if the tariffs that are being announced, what are the areas that I can explore to further reduce or avoid it altogether? There's some business that while going through that exercise, identified some opportunities that initially they were not pursuing for business reasons, but now the return on investment is different, right? So maybe that an alternative would come to play. Again, it's an evolving situation. It has been uncertain for a period of time. Creating flexibility and being nimble and agile, it's important for the business at this point.
100% agree. And I suppose on the theme of business and supporting business, obviously businesses are looking to this themselves, but we've seen, Ally, in the last couple of days, the Irish government have taken action. They've seen this as a big issue. They've seen it as an issue to support Irish business. What have they done and what have they announced in terms of supporting Irish business kind of deal with this matter?
Yeah, some really welcome developments. I think Enterprise Ireland in particular have launched 2 new grants. One to help companies start to do some initial market research around maybe what new markets and new products might be available. And the second then is a more comprehensive grant of about €150,000 to support companies as they start to explore new markets and new products. So really welcome developments from Enterprise Ireland. More broadly then, the Irish government have effectively allocated a resilience fund to help Irish exporters as they start to navigate some of these really challenging environments. So again, really welcome developments, I would say, by the Irish government.
Okay, to close out, and thanks for being with us this afternoon, Thais and Ally, what would be the one piece of advice that you'd give to businesses in terms of planning for what is an issue that will continue for possibly many years to come?
Being flexible and being open, right? Because some alternatives and options are on the table. Looking at this with the glass half full, right? And trying to look for alternatives and opportunities in this challenging environment.
Closing remark to you, Ally?
I would say 2 things. One, you're not alone. Lots of groups are working through these issues, so I think take comfort to some degree in that. And the other is bring a multidisciplinary team to the table.
Ally, Thais, thank you so much for being with us. Thais, enjoy your rest of your stay in Ireland and thanks for being here. Ally, thanks for your insights.
Thanks, John.